Good morning, baseball fans, and welcome back to Dan's Vintage Baseball PC. Do not be fooled by the fancy name. It's just me and some friends talking about baseball cards. And today's show is going to be about the Playball sets that were from 1939 to 1941. And our special guest is Vinit, who has completed a 1941 Playball set all in slabs. It's a beautiful sight, and you'll see it in a little bit. But let's just talk about the Playball sets right off the bat. Playball had three sets, 1939, 1940, 1941. They were produced by a company called Gum Inc. Gum Inc. was owned by a gentleman by the name of Bowman, who became the companies went back and forth throughout the 40s. And ultimately, at the end of the 40s, they produced baseball cards again that we know as the Bowman sets. So Gum Inc. started in 1938 with a set called The Horrors of War, which apparently did very well. So they decided in 39 to get into the baseball sets. And oddly enough, Gum Inc. was a fairly successful bubblegum company throughout the 1930s, the Great Depression, one of the few companies that actually survived and thrived. So 1939 set is their first shot at it. It's mostly portraits. So let's bring up what we have here. There's there's my 8 cards in the set. If you can see, the 39 is Hank Greenberg, Mellott, and Carl Hubble. And those are the sort of standard 39 look. There's no name on the front. There's only mostly portraits. And there are 161 cards in the set, even though it's numbered to 162 because there's no 126. The star power in the set includes DiMaggio, his first flagship card, Ted Williams, what's commonly referred to as Ted Williams' rookie card, Hank Greenberg, as you can see there, and Mellott. Missing from the set, star power-wise, Johnny Mize and Bob Feller. I did shows on both of those guys before, and they did not have any Playball cards. So in 1940, on the success of the 39 set, Playball introduced another set in 1940. So they added, as you can see from those two, the upper right is Greenberg in the 1940. The lower left is Carl Hubble in the 1940 set. They added action shots. They also added a name to the front, and the design plate. Let me see if I pull it up a little bit better size-wise here. Let's see. Whoops. Oh, there we go. So, as you can see, there's like a nameplate with some fancy baseball stuff on it from 40. 2 sets. They go from 1 to 144 and 145 to 240. 145 to 240 has a lot of retired stars in it. And it's a harder set to achieve. It's, the high number, difficult high numbers. The 41 set, as you can see from the Fox, the Cronin, and Greenberg again, is the introduction of color. But rather than have me narrate on the 41 set, let's bring Vinit on to talk about the set that he's completed and probably knows more than me about. So we can start the show. Hi, Vinit. Good morning. How are you?
Morning, Dan. How's it going?
Good. So I don't want to talk about 41 without getting you on the screen, because to me you're the expert on this, and we know each other from Twitter, and the thing that really attracted me to your account was the 1941 the what do they call it, the journey to get to the 41 set. So we'll bring up some photos of your set first, but let me just get some background stuff. When did you start collecting cards? When did you start getting into vintage? And when did 41 Playball become one of your goals?
Right. I think I'm like a lot of people in the sense that I collected when I was a kid, all throughout the junk wax era. I think first set I ever built was like 1987 tops, just going to the store, buying packs all the time. And I think when I finally got the Dale Spem card in it or something, I completed the set, but I almost had 2 whole sets because I had so many duplicates. And then I moved out of the country, towards the end of high school. And so I kind of stopped collecting at that point, early 90s. I actually got out of baseball. I know a lot of people think about, McGuire and Sosa and saving the sport, but I was kind of turned off by, a lot of records being broken that didn't seem to deserve to be broken, or at least I thought didn't deserve
No,
to be broken.
the old school,
Yeah, so I guess in some ways I've always been a vintage.
perfect mindset for a vintage guy.
Exactly. I've always been sort of a vintage person, even when I was a kid back in the 80s. I'd mow lawns, and then for me, I'd go and I'd get a 69 Topps card or something at my local store because they just happen to have some in there. So I was kind of always into the older stuff. So I actually did not follow baseball for about 16 or 17 years. And then in 2017, I probably like a lot of people on Twitter, it's a nice place to go to, especially if you get away from all the other stuff on it. And I spent so much time just watching the news and politics and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I got to get back to doing, things that are enjoyable. And so I got back into baseball in 2017, and looks like my Snakes are in the, I don't know if I got that all in there, but my Diamondbacks are doing well this year. And so
this is one of the subjects I wanted to cover with you. It's not 41 play ball, but I know, as we're recording this today, the Diamondbacks are about to appear in the National League Championship Series against the Phillies. So exciting team. I am actually rooting for them throughout this playoffs because of the way the team is constructed. So congratulations as a fan on that.
Yeah, no, it's been incredibly exciting. I work downtown right by the ballpark, and there's just this great buzz, and this just atmosphere every single day, even when they're not playing now. And it's kind of a cool thing to see. So
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's something I got in, but I didn't get back into cards until just 2 years ago. It's because I got back into baseball. I was on Twitter just reading some baseball stuff, and then I saw a Reggie Jackson rookie card, right? Someone had posted somewhere, and it wasn't even on a card site, just someone just putting up a picture of Reggie Jackson rookie card. And the first thing that popped in my head 2 years ago was, oh, that's a card I've always wanted. I can't wait till I become a grown up, and I'm able to get that card. And of course, I just turned 46 years old. Yeah, I just turned 46 years old at the time, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna get that, and that's what triggered me back in. I grew up in New Jersey mostly, and so I can't. Reggie Jackson as a kid in the early 80s, late 70s was the thing for me. So that's what stumbled me back, sort of triggered me back into all of this stuff, and yeah.
Okay, so I talked about 39 and 40. I only have a couple of cards, as you see, from each set. Anything in 30 and 40 for you in the play ball set?
I don't have anything for 39 or 40. When I got back
39 and 40, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, when I got back into collecting, I just started going through different websites and taking a look at the chronology of cards along the way. And, it's surprising. There's, obviously stats that always stick out for people, whether it's T2S6 or Cracker Jack or Gowdy, those are the ones that kind of stick out. And of course, as I was flipping through, just sort of seeing something like this stuck out for me too. And then you kind of go through this period where a lot of the flagship stuff is, black and white. And then you hit 41, and then there's just this splash of color. And that's what really just drew me to it more than anything else, was just the design and how the cards looked.
Well, there is part of the reason I did the 48 Bowman set. I did a show with Mark a few weeks ago, was because it's only 48 cards, and that's it's less imposing. And so if you were to do 39, there's 161 cards, so that's more than twice the size, and there's 240 in the 40 set, including all these retired guys. I'm a guy who only likes to do players who are playing days cards.
Playing days cards, yeah.
So I don't really have any interest in Christy Mathewson in a 1940s card, but they're hard to find because they're high numbers, and so you picked the right one, because we have we'll get into it in a few minutes, but there's only 72 cards.
Well, that certainly factored into my head as well, because I'd never, other than again that 87 set, going to the store every day, it wasn't wasn't able to go and get 2 cards for a penny for the 41 Playball. So, I had to go and pick something small that I thought I could actually get. So,
Well, let's pull up the money shot. There it is. You can't really see them that well because there's 72 cards, but that is the complete set. They're all in PSA, right? It looks to me like they're all in PSA slabs.
they are. I probably should seek help for that. I hadn't intended to build the set. The very first card I got, which was the 4th card I got when I got back into collecting, was the Hank Greenberg, and I noticed you've got all 3 of those Hank Greenbergs. But I saw that, and of course, not knowing how to, not knowing too much about vintage, just sort of getting back into it. I just knew Greenberg is a great player and found a decent deal on it and decided to get it, and that's what sort of led me down this path. But yeah, so they're all PSA slabbed, and that's just because the first one I got was PSA slabbed, and then I couldn't possibly mix slabs or raw and slabs, and so yeah, I think I'll definitely seek help for that. But there's no way I was going to have it not all be sort of uniform in terms of.
Yeah, I mean my 48 is all SGC, and SGC doesn't have the set registry. So you could, if you have not already, gone onto the PSA website and register this set. It'll be probably a lot of input of data because you got to put in all the serial numbers, but then you become one of the one of the few people who has completed this set in all SGC slabs, and you're in the registry and they rank you. So there's probably some guy who has them all in 7s and 8s and 9s.
Well, I don't think I'd rank that high.
Yeah. It's I'm going to show you one of my high grade ones. Just I have sort of randomly, but then we'll get into it. So the set is broken down. Wait, what did I do there? Is that all? Oh, that's not.
So yeah.
There I clicked twice. So this is the sets are 72 cards, 2 sets, 1 through 48 and 49 through 72. Is the higher numbers harder to find?
They didn't really seem that hard, actually, for me to find personally. I don't think other people have had too much difficulty finding some of the higher numbers. There's just a few scattered in here or there, in the 40s, sort of the higher numbers in the lower series. And it took me forever to get Whit Wyatt on the Brooklyn Dodgers. I feel like he's a guy that people just don't really sell that often. But no, I didn't really think that there was much of a difference. So okay. the whole idea, I think, is that the first 48 cards came out. So the belief is that they came out in 1941, and you can see a copyright sort of on the back that sort of says that. And then for 49 to 72, there isn't a year; it just sort of has the copyright, and that's led some people to speculate that they actually came out in 42. There are some in the first 48 as well too that have copyrights without a year on them as well too. But I didn't actually think there was much of a difference in trying to locate high numbers versus low numbers. So I think it's maybe just a year thing as opposed to difficulty or the amount that they were printed.
I read that the second set was possibly introduced in 42. I don't know that there's any contemporaneous evidence of that other than the copyright. Do you know if there's any just firsthand accounts kind of thing?
No. I probably read the same thing you did, but that seems to be the speculation. But I don't have anything that confirms it in any way.
The way that the reason I'm a little bit suspect of that is because if it was introduced in 1942, that would be during the war. I mean, we know the war started
right
September of 41. So if they're introducing baseball cards while there's a war going on, I'm a little suspect of that having happened. Not to say that it didn't, but certainly, there's the whole sort of back and forth with the 48, 49 Leaf cards, which wouldn't be during a war and which there might be more memories of. And it's still starting to get to the point where companies don't necessarily, I know SGC says 48-49, so they haven't even decided yet. So this is 1 through 48. What I see Greenberg in there. Archie Vaughan and quite a number of players. What I do love about this set is that it's a mix. There's portraits, there's action shots, but what's really cool is the color. And so I was going to show you this one, which you obviously know. This is the one of my favorite cards, period. And let me get a little better screen of this. This is the 41 Jimmy Fox, and this card is kind of special for me in a couple of ways. One is that the color is amazing. Fox is an amazing player to have, but this card sat in the SGC grading location for about 17 months. That's the bad news. So this card doesn't just remind me of the great Jimmy Fox and the great colors in the 41 Playball, but it also reminds me of why I don't really go to PSA anymore. They kept this card for 17 months. But that being said, let's get back to your stuff here. That's 1 through 48, and then this is 49 to 72, if I'm correct, right? Yeah, I think I got that right.
That is correct. Yeah, you've got the Reese rookie up there in the top row, and a couple of DiMaggio brothers there in the middle, and then of course Joe himself down towards the end. It ends on 3 Yankee Hall of Famers right at the end of the set, which is kind of going out with a bang there. But yeah, and that's exactly it too. So there's the color there, but it's the mix of the portraits and the action poses. The color schemes are different on all the cards. It's one of those things too, and you get the individual cards great. And I think sometimes the picks don't do it justice, but when you kind of just lay them all out like that, all 72, and you kind of look at them, it's really an impressive sight.
Yeah, there's a player, and so if you go to DiMaggio and go 2 to the left, there's Dickey, and then there's a player I don't know with that orange and slight yellow thing. That's
George Case.
And then above him is, I think, the most psychedelic card in this set.
That's Vince DiMaggio right there.
That's
so
Vince. All right, yeah, we'll get the it's like the orange and the red and the yellow and the blitz. Really kind of a weird looking card there. And then of course above and to the right there is the great Pee Wee Reese, who is the premier rookie in this set. And that is a card that I'd like to get, but it's a pricey one. So how did you get the Reese card?
I like a lot of these were just sort of assembled on eBay. And at that time, just I don't know, probably just a standard buyer, just looking at comps and if I were to look at that, I was like, all right, well, this seems reasonable. It's probably a card that's, I would say, actually for me, overgraded. I'm sure there was a reason why there was a deal on it, but I thought, well, here's a chance to get one that looks reasonably good and at a decent price, and so just went and snagged it there, and he's sort of in that nice mix of Dodgers, just sort of along that top row. That's kind of a neat thing about the set as well too, is that a lot of, not always, but a lot of the times, like the cards, if you just put them out consecutively, they seem to go team by team. So, if you were trying to just collect a certain thing, you kind of would have them all together. And no Cubs in the set. So that's the other interesting thing as well too. So that's an easy team set to get.
No Cubs. And, of course, I have friends who are Cubs collectors. In fact, I just mailed out a package to somebody with some Cubs in it. So I know that the Cubs fans are probably a little upset about that. But I think the reason, and this is what I read, I don't know if you've read the same thing, is because this is Gum Inc., and one of their major competitors was Wrigley, and Wrigley owned the Cubs at the time. So that, I think, is the reason why there are no Cubs in this set.
I don't know that, but I'm going to go with that because that sounds like a good story there.
Well, yeah, it sounded to me more reasonable than the after the war started, but I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't born for 20-something years later, but anyway. So this is another money shot. These are all the Hall of Famers, right?
That's right. All 15 of them there. Love that. I mean, yeah, you've got the Carl Hubble for 39.40. That's the 40 shot of Hubble there, the action shot. And, a lot of these cards are just colorizations of that that
Yep.
1940 photograph. The Melot, another one right there next to him. Great action shot there. Archie Vaughan, as I said, Greenberg was the first card I got. Archie Vaughan was the second
Right.
card I got in the set. I never really thought I was going to get the set to begin with. I was just trying to get specific players that I liked. I liked Greenberg. I had never heard of Archie Vaughan. I was reading that Joe Posnowski Baseball 100 book, and he's got him in there. He's like, "This is the greatest guy you've never heard of," and I was like, "I've never heard of him." And then sort of read the story, and I was like, "Oh, this is kind of neat." And so I thought, okay, I got to go out and get an Archie Vaughan card, and so I picked him up, and then of course the Fox card, which you already showed next to him, and then somewhat decent ball player there in the upper right.
Yeah, he's another one that, as you can see, obviously I don't have Ted any of the 3 play balls because they're all super expensive. My friend Matt has all of them, including the variations with the I think it's 39, where there's some that have all uppercase, all capitals, and others lowercase.
Right.
Yeah, and then so he's hopefully going to show that off on a future show.
I will definitely tune in for that. I've seen some of his.
Yeah, he's my Ted Williams super collector friend, and he's agreed to come on the show, but scheduling has been the issue. But at this point, I do want to show this guy because I'm gonna do a little spike in the ball here. This is Joe Cronin, who I do PC, and there will be a Joe Cronin show coming up too. I'm working on a guest for that, and this is a 7. So it's hard to find these in 7s. And the nice part about this is that it's Joe Cronin's a Hall of Famer in a 7. You'd think I'd spent, an arm and a leg on this, but I actually got it pretty decently in an auction. And so I just wanted to spike the ball on this one. Because it's funny, I always say this, when I bring on the guests, it makes me feel a little bit insecure because here I am with, a handful of cards from this set, and you're showing off this amazing complete set, which is, obviously something that I know I'm never going to get. So this is the one you sent me, this one, and I loved getting this one because these are the 40 and 41 MVPs.
Right. And yeah, I sent that to you because, there's always this whole thing of like, when you get the 1941, is it representing the 1940 season, with the, I guess in this case, not stats on the back, but the description on the back, or is it really about the 41 season? I've always thought, yes, it's the 41 play ball, but I think of it as the 40 season, or I always tend to think of it as the stats on the back for me. That's the kind of the way I think about it.
Right.
But this season is so unique, and this set is so unique in the sense that there isn't a 42 set out there because of the war, right? You can go back to and take a look at the 41 stats. And so in my head, this one always does a little bit of double duty in the sense that, it's got the 40 descriptions on the back with the Tigers and the Reds going to the World Series. And, you've got the 2 MVPs right there, Buck McCormick and Hank Greenberg on top. And of course, because there aren't, 42 cards, so you've got the 41 MVPs there as well too, and DiMaggio and Dolph Camilli. So it's I think that's the kind of the neat thing about the set as well too, because there isn't one right after there. And the other interesting thing is you look at the back of Buck McCormick's card, and it's got the write up, the description at the end where it's talking about him, potentially being the next Iron Man because he's played in like 460 something consecutive games. And so it's just a nice reminder there where you kind of get, the passing of Lou Gehrig also happening at that time, and 41. And so people looking for that next thing. So that's, just another thing about the set as you think about going off to war and you don't get, cards for a few years. And so this is the last issue there. And this is obviously if you're collecting, this is what you would have to tide you over, right, during all those times where there aren't like these major flagship issues coming out. So, that's another just unique feature, really.
Yeah.
The whole set.
Well, the couple of things. One is the Camilli card, and I collect Dodgers, mostly 50s Dodgers, and Brooklyn, and Camilli was a Brooklyn star. Obviously, he was the MVP in 1941. So. And that is a beautiful card. And, it's one of
It
those
is.
kind of slipped through the cracks with me. And it's now been, I've now put it on my mental list for a card that I might look after. The other thing is you got Joe DiMaggio as the 1941 MVP because he hit in 56 consecutive games. But of course, Ted Williams won the Triple Crown.
No, DiMaggio got him an RBIs that year.
Okay, all right.
DiMaggio drove in 5 more runs, and there you go.
No, I'm sorry. 1941 is 406. Right?
Yes, 1941 is 406. Yeah, he led the league in average at 400 in homers, but I think DiMaggio got him in RBI. So
there's 1 year that Ted won the Triple Crown and didn't win the MVP. I think that might be 47. But yeah, 41 is the year he hit 400, 406, and didn't win the MVP. We talk about writers now, but I can only imagine. And the other one that's cool for me, and of course we've talked about Greenberg, and I'll maybe talk about him a little bit later. But Buck McCormick is kind of an important player in this time frame. He didn't just win the MVP in 1940; he had like 4 or 5 really, really good years in a row, including in 1940 winning the World Series with Cincinnati Reds. And McCormick he did not go into the service, so he was actually playing throughout the 40s. I don't know the reason behind that, but he actually ended up playing for the 1948 Boston Braves. He was like a platoon first baseman by that time. He was like 37 and 38. Mm-hmm. And his final season was his final at bats were in the 1948 World Series. So he's kind of a cool guy. And I'm a 48 World Series guy. I've got a ticket for it, and we're going to do a show on that. I'm trying to line up a really kind of a celebrity guest for that one. But so McCormick is cool. Obviously, Hank is great because, like you saw, I have all 3 of the Hank Playball cards.
So what is it about the Hank that sort of drove you to get all 3 of those?
So Hank Greenberg was born about a mile from where I am sitting right now. And there's a plaque. Mm-hmm. And I actually showed it on Twitter once. He was born on, I think it's Grove Street? It's one of the streets in the West Village. And I took a picture of the plaque and I put it on Twitter. And Greenberg he's a New York player. He's obviously a pioneer, having been like the first major Jewish American player. And he's also an American hero, as he's either I get this mixed up. He and Feller were the first. One was already in the reserves and went into the armed service for the war, and the other one signed up. And I think Greenberg's the one who actually signed up for the war. First Major League Baseball player, and he missed all of 42, all of 43, all of 44, and half of 45. Came back in the second half of the season, raked it, and then won the World Series in 45. So, I mean, he's just, and Greenberg also had a post-career where he was in, he was general manager, and he was in ownership groups. So he's just really kind of a larger-than-life figure in Major League history. So, and his, as you may know, his Gaudy cards and his Diamond Stars cards are both very, very expensive.
Right.
So
this is the only one I've got of him, and all those reasons, and of course his home run chase when he was trying to track down Ruth and what he had to go through. Definitely that. And going back a few slides there, I know that he was right next to Cronin, right? So a couple of great ball players who then just had these long careers, as sort of executives afterwards. And so just
I got to go back. Yeah, there he is. Right. Wait, where is he?
There's the one with all the Hall of Famers in it. I think those are. Okay. Yeah, so it's just. There we go. There you see him in the middle row right there, right on the left, back to back.
Yep. And I PC Cronin. I can't really PC Greenberg because his cards are so expensive. But there is a guy, I think, on YouTube who has an entire account about his Greenberg collection. So maybe I'll have him on. I don't know him personally, so it makes it a little more difficult. So here we go. There they are.
Yeah. Those are my 2 lowest graded cards of the set. So just thought I'd throw in the losers there for you. But
the 2 with 2.5, I mean, you don't have any real bangers. I mean not bangers. I mean, cards that are in terrible shape, because I don't have
those are the 2 worst apparently, and I'll take them. So
that DiMaggio for a 2 presents really, really well.
Yeah, it's just got that crease that you can kind of see right in the middle there. But other than that, it's a pretty beautiful card.
So this guy, I'll just go back to this guy for a second. This is it's a 2.5. And I'll tell you, if you saw this up front, you'd be like, how is that a 2.5? I thought it was going to get like a 5. Problem is there's like a tiny little bit of staining up here. So
Hmm.
that staining saved me a lot of money. as you know, having purchased these cards, the Hall of Famers are a lot. So there's Ted and Joe. We talked about their 41 seasons. Um, and DiMaggio is interesting to me, and I don't know if you can shed any light on this because I did a DiMaggio show with Ian about, I don't know, a month ago. He has these 3 Playball cards, 39, 40, and 41, but then he doesn't have another card until the Leaf, and there's no Bowman
Right.
cards with DiMaggio. And
Right.
I'm wondering, it maybe because Gum Inc. and Bowman cards are not the exact same company, but pretty much the same company. And I was wondering if there was some bad blood from the amount of money that they didn't give him for the Playball sets that he decided never to go with Bowman again. I don't know if that's my surmise because I don't really have any reason why there aren't any Bowman DiMaggio cards.
Yeah, I never really thought about it other than someday if I'm sort of torn, and someday if I ever decide to go through and get some of the Bowman sets, it'd be awesome to have a DiMaggio Bowman. At the same time, I'm like, oh, that would just make them too expensive.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I never thought he's got one with like Burke Ross in the early '50s, I think.
yeah, he's got a 51 and a 52 Burke Ross.
Right.
51 is the last playing days card. I have that one. I don't really want the 52 because it's not a playing days card. And also,
Yeah.
Burke Ross is kind of I don't know that they were completely authorized to print those cards. So I don't know if they gave any money to these guys or they just printed them, and then they distributed them.
Yeah.
I think ballparks or whatever. But the last actual legal flagship DiMaggio is the 49 Leaf. Um, so let me go. We got another couple of here. All right, so this I love this, and when you sent it to me, I was like, I didn't even realize that this is
Yeah.
Dom DiMaggio rookie card, of course, the Joe we talked about, and then Vince, the not so well known brother, with the psychedelic cards. So
Right. It's the only set that I think I know of that's got all 3 brothers in it. So that's kind of a
yeah,
cool thing with the set going on as well too.
yeah, it would be the only 3 brother set until the Alus appeared in like early to mid '60s. I don't know specifically which is the first set that has Jesus and Marty and Philippe, but there are throughout the '60s. But this is cool because, like I said, it's Dom DiMaggio's rookie card, and Dom doesn't have that many cards in the hobby.
No, no. And I think it's great. You got all 3 of them there. You've got like just the variations in terms of how the cards look as well too. And so I've always kind of put them together. I don't know. Probably makes more sense to put Joe in the middle. Just have the other 2 kind of flank him on the sides there. But I guess I guess I'm so anal. I had to like put them in the numbers
They're
that they were
order,
in. But
yeah. So there you go.
yeah. But yeah, that's I love that little sort of woodsy background there, kind of, or at least it looks like woodsy background there behind Dom, but sort of behind the ballpark that he's at. But
Yep.
yeah, they look different, and I think Joe and Dom obviously everybody knows, but I don't know what other sets Vince has kind of showed up in, and I don't
Yeah.
really see them all except for this one too much. But yeah, it's nice to have them all there together.
I did do some research on Dom. He's got this card, then he's got a 49 and a 50 Bowman, and then he's got 52 and 53 tops, and that's it. Those are his only flagship cards. I mean, I think he's probably got some food issues and stuff, but for the most part, that's it. So if you wanted to do the Dom DiMaggio run, Vinny, you've already started with the hardest cards. So there you
There we
go.
go. Now I have no choice but to. So right.
So couple of other things in my notes. One is that the banner on the bottom. The 41 has a banner with the name, which is good, but it's not like all elaborate. The 40 has like these like elaborate kind of things on the side. Um,
Right.
which I didn't have a 40 out here, but I can go back a little bit. Let's see. We'll go back to the beginning.
I wonder if they just kind of toned down the banner because they went with the color. I mean, I think that would be, yeah, there's
Yeah,
the elaborate 40 banners, but I mean, that
yeah,
would be a lot if you had those banners and then also one color as well.
yeah. And they must have put a lot of effort into the color. And I to be fair, my original impression of this set, which when I was a kid, I didn't even know the set existed when I was collecting in like the 70s and 80s. Even when I was collecting as an adult, I didn't know about play ball until like probably within the last 10 years. And I was always a little bit turned off by the 41 because the color, it's very sort of primitive. But as I became more, interested in pre-war cards, I realized that the color is actually what makes it great. And like I showed the Fox card before, it's one of those things where you don't fully realize how good it is until you sort of understand it in context. And so, yes, it's primitive, but also you get some amazing, just the Dolph Camilli card, the weird psychedelic, Vince DiMaggio card, and of course Fox. So that's kind of where I'm at this point, and that's why I love this set so much, is because you get all different types of things. So anything where I think we went through all the slides. I think we're about ready to wrap up. Any final thoughts, last words, etc.?
Yeah, no, I've got maybe a question for you. I don't
Okay.
know if you know this, but you mentioned Feller and Mize not being in some of the play balls. They're not in this one as well,
Mhm.
too. And the only I think mention Feller has is on the back of a Raleigh Hemsley card, who was the catcher, and it talks about him not hitting very well, but handling Feller behind the plate,
Yeah.
very well, and that's the only mention of Feller. But you'd mentioned that there was a reason why they're not in these sets, because obviously that's
Oh,
Feller being left out just seems like the huge omission. There's other Indians on there, and there's mention
yeah.
of them on the back of a card, and so I've always wondered about that myself.
I don't know why Feller is not in the set. My guess with Mize is the 41, I think, or it's 40 or 41, those double play cards where it's just two players on it.
Right.
Those were sort of also sort of bootleg sets that they didn't get the permission and didn't pay the players. And Johnny Mize actually sued that company. That was also another bubblegum company. And so he didn't win the lawsuit, but the lawsuit cost them enough money that they didn't feel like producing cards anymore. Uh, and then the war came. But I think Johnny Mize was kind of soured on cards in some of the same ways maybe that DiMaggio was later on in the 40s. So that's my guess as to Mize. I don't know if that's if that's factual or not. And with Feller, I really don't know why, because Feller's he's very very well represented after 48.
Right.
In both Bowman and Tops. And I did a Feller show months ago, and his flagship is not that hard to collect. It's the stuff in the 30s, the special cards, the premium Gaudis and all those that are hard to find. So that's all I have on that particular issue. So anyway, we're about ready to wrap it up. Just wanted to bring in some more money shots here. Just it's like I love these photos. I just can't get over it. And it's funny because I'm actually going to a card show after we finish recording. I'm going to the Hofstra show out on Long Island,
Hmm.
400 tables, and there's a pretty good chance I come home with a 41 play ball card from there. At this point, you really whet my appetite for it. So anyway, Vinny, thank you so much for coming on. I couldn't do a play ball show on my own because like you saw, I have like 8 cards. I really needed somebody like yourself who's done the whole set and knows so much about it, and it's really an honor to have you on my show. And so thank you so much for being on here today.
Yeah, thanks. Really enjoyed it.
All right, so we'll I think next week we're going to have our Yogi Berra friend. And then I've got a lot of guests lined up. That's why I changed the tagline in the show. It's not just me and some cards anymore. It's me and friends talking about baseball cards. So all set. Vinny, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Great. Thank you.